I'm Cathy Petersen, a volunteer with the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce. You are watching Business Connection, a program produced by the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is committed to finding solutions for business leaders on key issues. And we have a very exciting topic for today. We're going to be talking about MCO Future. It's an ambitious initiative that was really sparked by the Montgomery County Commissioners and various partners. And joining me today, we have Montgomery County Commissioner Debbie Lieberman, and we have Jack Dustin from Wright State University.
Good morning.
Welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Like I said, this is a very exciting time for Montgomery County, and MCO Future has a lot to do with that. Debbie, I'm going to start with you. What exactly is MCO Future?
MCO Future, Montgomery County, Ohio's future. And about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, my fellow commissioners and I, Dan Foley, Judy Dodge, we every year we work on strategic initiatives. And we said, we'd like to have citizen input. We'd like to do something that's never really been done before in Montgomery County, to hear from the citizens and how they'd like to see Montgomery County move forward.
And I had really the privilege to attend the public forums that were held, and we had, how many were there?
5.
There were 5 of them. Good turnout, and it was, people from all walks of life coming. You had city leaders, you had students. So how happy were you to see that?
We were thrilled. Our first forum was kind of a y'all come. And we heard, as you both know, for everything from my trash isn't getting picked up to, how can we move this county forward? And so it was really nice. We had 500 people, and we heard voices from throughout the county. Actually, there were people from outside the county that shared as well. But it was so great to hear that and then see what path we wanted to take with the future forums.
Absolutely. I know it was, a big process throughout all of this, but what are some of the key things that the county learned through this?
We learned that our citizens like their local government, but yet they'd like, if there are things that we can do to make it more efficient, more cost effective, that they'd like to see that. They'd also, and we found this through actually questionnaires and polling, okay? So surveying that Wright State so kindly did for us. And, we found that they would like to see us move forward in a way that doesn't necessarily mean giving up their local government, but let's do things that make sense.
And a lot, you mentioned it, can you do it cost effectively, but still efficiently? Can you still provide those quality services?
Absolutely, absolutely. And there are some services that our citizens don't care who provides that service, but there are some that they'd like to keep that as close to home as possible. So it was, to say what did we learn? We learned so much. We learned we have a great community, and that most of our jurisdictions are doing great things. In fact, all of them are doing great things. It's just the point of this was to see how can we work together better.
And that's a good point, because some of our jurisdictions they have great programs that maybe some of the other jurisdictions can learn from or, work together with.
Collaborate with, absolutely. Yes. And it's all about keeping the good services, but yet keeping our tax dollars low.
Really, it's as simple as that in a much, bigger sense.
Right.
Well, the county partnered with University of Dayton, Sinclair Community College, Wright State University, and Central State University throughout this. And I know that Wright State focused a lot on the research of, MCO Future. And you and your team, Jack, you played a big role in determining winning counties.
Right.
And those are counties across the country.
That's right.
That are similar to us.
Yep.
But what can you tell us about that research?
Well, the research had a couple of phases. The first phase was really to identify counties that were similar to Montgomery County. So we began with 200 counties that were, we thought, similar to Montgomery County. But as we continued to study them, we found that there were 132 that were somewhat or pretty close to Montgomery County. So what do I mean by that? I mean that in terms of population, terms of their independent regional economy, that they're not really a satellite of a larger urban area. Another one is that there is a similar composition of the economy, meaning that we have a pretty large manufacturing sector. So we were looking for counties that had a manufacturing sector that was somewhat similar to Montgomery counties. And also we were concerned about special drivers that may be present in some counties, such as a state capital or a single large employer. And then we looked at other data. But essentially we used basic metrics, and the metrics were, are you growing? And that is an attractiveness measure. And so the idea is that if people want to come here, if businesses want to come here, that's a good thing. And the other one is we looked at the growth or recovery of the housing values in the counties. And that is wealth. That is a major indicator of wealth in a county. The third one is that we looked at unemployment. And that, of course, is our economic performance. And so we looked at counties in terms of their employment. And then the last one, poverty. And poverty could be viewed as a measure of opportunity in the area. So we looked at counties that were performing on those measures better. And we ranked them, and we came up with a group. Montgomery County fell about in the middle of that group. But we looked at the top group, and that's how we began selecting the counties. And then we vetted them with an MCO Future advisory committee, and they talked it over, and somewhat like basketball, everyone has their own special team or county that they thought was important. Well, we eventually decided on 9 that we thought really fit the criteria well, and those 9 are Chatham County, which is where Savannah, Georgia is. The next one is Hillsborough, and that is Manchester, New Hampshire, in Knox County in Knoxville, Tennessee, Lane County, which is where Eugene, and that's in Oregon, Lehigh County, and that's where Allentown, and that's in Pennsylvania, Madison County, and that's where Huntsville is, and that's in Alabama, Onondaga County, that's where Syracuse is located, and that's in New York, and then Spokane County and Spokane City, Spokane City in Washington, a little confusing, and Utah County and Provo in Utah County, in the state of Utah. So we studied the 9 counties. So what did we do? Well, once we got them, we really dug into their biographies. We collected any data we could, and we wrote about 15 single-space pages on every single county, trying to figure out how they work, what makes them tick, why they're successful. And we ended up with a interview, and we interviewed their leadership. We interviewed public leaders, private sector leaders, and nonprofit leaders. And we asked them the same set of questions. We essentially wanted to know why their population was growing, how they recovered from the housing market collapse, how they improved or grew jobs. And so we asked them all those questions, but also we asked them some very important questions on how local government works together, how local government works with businesses, and what, if they put their fingers on a few things, what are those key factors that they think made a difference for them? And so we ended up with a set of common themes, and those common themes we call formulas for success. The first one is education attainment, and what we discovered is that all 9 counties had higher levels of education attainment, meaning more people completed high school, had college degrees, 2-year or 4-year advanced degrees, and especially college degrees were important. We also discovered that they had a more diversified economy than perhaps we did, that almost every county could claim that they had some comparative tax advantage. Fourth, they had a great attitude about their county. They knew why people ought to come here, and they told everybody why they ought to come here. And when we talked to different people, they pretty much said the same thing. So everybody was talking from the same script. Then the last thing they mentioned was that they were working hard on coordination, collaboration. And some of those issues related to governments working in councils or associations, or business government organizations that invested in new types of, they lost businesses just like we did. So they were investing in new businesses. And so those are the kinds of things that we learned that help guide the initiatives identified by MCO Future.
Did the final 9 counties, the winning counties, did they surprise you?
Well, yes.
Yes.
They're not the usual counties we look at. And so I had my favorites, just like everybody did, else did, and none of my favorites panned out. So we went with the counties that we thought performed the best and yet matched up well with Montgomery County. So that's how we got there with the 9 counties.
Well, and being a part of that, I think one of the things we wanted to look for is how are they growing jobs?
Yes.
How are they doing this? How are they keeping their workforce and growing a good workforce? And so when we saw that these were successful and said, you know, they kind of compare to us a little bit. Like you said, there's no capitals in there, there's no, you know, major cities. And so we think we can compete and get in that top 9.
Absolutely, and learn from that.
Absolutely.
You know, to move us forward.
That's the key. We don't have to reinvent wheels, you know. We can learn from what they did and how their community worked together. So it's exciting to move forward.
It was interesting after the 9 counties were released. I was looking online and doing a little research on some of the communities, and many of the photographs look a lot like Dayton
our downtown.
and our communities. So it
Yes.
was interesting there that we all kind of look alike a little bit. So now the last forum was held in February, and at that forum, the commissioners and the MCO Future team and the partners, they released really the final initiatives. One of those really focuses on education. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. You know, as we saw, these other counties are doing so much better than we are. You know, we are so fortunate that we have incredible institutes of higher learning. We have incredible school districts in our region. And so we have to figure out, first of all, what are we doing wrong? But second of all, how can we do better? And so it's at a time where so many parts of the country are looking at this, but we were fortunate that we've had a group looking at this for quite a while. Through our Family and Children First Council, Montgomery County's FCFC, we call it, several years ago, we identified that early childhood education is critical. It's just critical. And so we started investing in that and pushing that. And then a lot of that team that was working on that said, we can do more. And so Learn to Earn was birthed this past year. And so one of our first things we're going to do as a county is really get behind Learn to Earn. And Learn to Earn isn't just preschool, it's making sure that every student in Montgomery County, from preschool to graduating from either high school, Sinclair, a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, and on, what we call through P through 16. And so we're going to be there engaged. There are several different sections and parts to that, but the county is behind it. And the first thing I think is going to be the preschool, to make sure that everyone in this county that wants a quality preschool, every child can do that.
Absolutely. It really does start with our youngest. It's not, getting to them in high school and then ready for college. It starts at the beginning.
It starts at the beginning. However, we know that we can bolster along that pipeline and do whatever we can do to help. We've been successful in the past as a county in really turning around our high school dropouts. So we know when our community focuses on a problem, we can turn it around. So that's one of the things that came out, that it was just great that we're able to work with the rest of our community that's working on that.
And like you said, it's the whole process here, from the beginning to, when they graduate. And one thing that was very interesting to me was, we have that skills gap. We've heard that talked about. And part of that initiative is, really getting our workforce trained for the jobs that are available now and the future.
In the future, that's right.
Yes.
And that's where the skills mismatch has been going on, but we're really noticing it now that we've lost a lot of our legacy auto manufacturing. And so I think it's all hands on deck, whether it's the chamber, whether it's our other workforce partners. Sinclair's doing a great job, Wright State, UD, everybody in this together to make sure that we're training our kids in what jobs are going to be here. Because that's another part of all of our study, and what we want to do is keep our kids here. Keep them here. If they want to stay here, we want to keep them here, because we're going to need more jobs that are going to be not just skilled, but also educated. So, and it's across the section. Not everybody has to go to college, because we know not everybody is going to make it in college, but those students and young people that choose not to go to college, we have to make sure that they're trained.
Absolutely. And you talked about, we have a lot of talented young people coming out of our higher education institutions, and some of them have already left. And I know part of MCO Future is maybe drawing them back.
Bring them home.
Yes.
Absolutely. Let's bring them home. And sometimes that happens. If your parents are still there, you go away, you go to Chicago, you go, to the big city, and then they come home. But we have to make sure that we're staying engaged and that they know that this is the best place to live. This is a great county. We have jobs for you here. So it's going to be a mixture of things.
Absolutely. Jack, you touched on this a little bit earlier, talking about collaboration and working together. And I know that one of the initiatives that came out of the February forum was the formation of a Council of Governments, a COG. What exactly is a COG, and how could it benefit Montgomery County?
Okay. Let me give you a little background, but first I just want to build off what Debbie was talking about. And we've been looking at COGs across the United States. We just found one that focused on internships and promoting internships among college graduates or even high school graduates to get them an internship is a way to get them to stay in the area. But when we looked at the initiatives we've tried to be data driven, either whether it's from a poll or whether it's from looking at the different counties or other types of data. But 7 of our 9 counties really thought that local governments made a difference, and they made a difference because they were working together. They were working together to bring new businesses, and they were working together to suppress the interlocal competition that always exists everywhere. But they were trying to discourage it. And the idea is that if we grow jobs, if we bring new businesses in, everybody wins, no matter where they may be located. So the 7 counties that we were talking about, they identified these organizations, and I just want to say, like government across the United States, COGs are very, very different. They're so varied. And we have COGs right here already. We have a transportation COG, a cable console COG. So they have been around since the 1950s. But the idea is that they initially started as being more issue-based. So we want to deal with our waste management issue. We want to deal with flooding. We want to deal with water. We want to deal with these various issues. But some COGs organized in a very permanent way. And Lane County in Oregon and Eugene is a good example of one of those COGs, where they created their COG in the late 1940s or early 50s. I forget the exact date. But they have a charter, and they have been working at this a long time. And some of those relationships have extended even to the state. So while they have a COG that works with local governments, that COG is very instrumental in working with the state as well. So what are some of the things that we heard from the 9 counties that said why local governments, why COGs are a good idea? They said, well, COGs attract resources to our region. They write grants and they work together. It gives them more power when they're working together to attract resources. A COG is a way to speak with one voice to people outside of the region. And that one voice says, hey, this area has its act together. And so they're working together. It's a way for COGs sometimes connect local governments with businesses. And so the businesses like that as well. There's one place to go rather than in Montgomery County, 28 different places to go. Also, COGs are very important in terms of fostering efficient services. And efficient services mean keeping taxes flat or maybe reducing costs of government. So what is a COG? Let me get to to your initial question. So that's the groundwork. So COGs are voluntary associations of local governments. And the COGs, as I said before, the key idea is it's focused on collaboration. And the collaboration can be for economic development, services, or both, typically. COG's or MCO Future's goal in thinking about a COG is to figure out better ways of coordinating what local governments do, getting local governments to think about collaboration. And let me just give you some examples. A number of years ago, there was a request from the state, and our area identified literally hundreds of examples of local governments working together. And those collaborations produce savings for the residents in those communities. We also have some much broader examples of local governments working together, and that's Montgomery County's EDGE program, which is still a model in the United States of local governments working together. And I can tell you, a few years ago, I got a project from the state of Ohio to look at how we can get multiple counties working together. So I had the opportunity to work with other counties as well as Montgomery County people. And the Montgomery County people in the room thought totally differently than the other counties. And it's because the EDGE program had developed a culture of local governments working together. So what we're trying to do with the COG, or at least this is the idea, is that there's a lot of work to be done. We have this last decade has been unkind to Montgomery County and our region, and we've got a lot of work to do. And it's going to take us working more closely together, local governments finding new ways to save money. And if we save money, that gives us an opportunity to invest in new businesses. So that's pretty much where we stand right now. We have a good foundation for this COG. And so I know the county has some ideas about how we ought to move forward on this.
We do. And it's going to be a challenge. I mean, we have 28 jurisdictions in Montgomery County, as you well know. And, you know, as we started, everyone may not be involved.
Sure.
And because it has to be a coalition of willing, because we want everybody to be engaged. But it's a circular thing. It's not that Montgomery County is going to be at the head of the table running this show. We want to make this better, because as we've seen, not only has our economy been hit hard, but then we've been hit hard as local governments in Ohio, being cut by the state on funds that we have really relied on for 30, 40 years. And so we have to do better while we still provide those services, great services that I think we provide in our county. So I think we're going to get some buy-in because everybody knows that EDGE has worked.
Yes.
And they know it works because every jurisdiction is involved, and it's a sharing kind of thing. So we're hoping that that can translate into this COG as the first steps, and that'll be a positive thing for the community.
Absolutely. We've talked about some of the initiatives. There are some other great ones which you can find on MCOfuture.com. What happens now, though?
Well, I think now we as a county and the commissioners are able to look at these things, and we're going to build these into this next 2 years. We do every 2 years kind of strategic initiatives of the commissioners, and we're going to build this into our strategic initiatives. We're going to continue to socialize this in the community, continue to work with the jurisdictions on the COG, continue to work with Learn to Earn. There's, like you said, several other initiatives. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. So it's not, we said this from the beginning. We engaged our partners, we've done all this work, and now we're not just going to let this sit on a shelf somewhere. We're moving forward.
Yes. What are your hopes, Jack, for the future of MCO Future?
Well, first of all, I think it really fits Montgomery County's DNA. I mean, they have been very innovative through the past. EDGE is a good illustration of that. And to build on what Debbie just said, the success of EDGE came through leadership from the business community. They stepped forward and they said, we think this is a good idea. And they actually provided facilitation, dispute resolution among local governments to get to EDGE. But it also took a lot of leadership from local governments. Some of the elected officials had to stand up, and they took some pretty gutsy stands for some of them who knew that they were going to share some revenues with other local governments under the EDGE program. Part of it is tax-based sharing. And they had to stand up there and tell their citizens, well, we think this is good for our community, even though we're going to share some of your tax revenues with someone else. That is that's good leadership. And so we need that leadership from business, from government, but we also need citizens, as you began with. We heard from citizens. We need citizens to stay engaged, and especially some of the younger citizens. And we've been at some of the, or at all of the forums, we've had young leadership there. And I think, in my view, my hope is, because I'm one of those individuals who's starting to fade off, is that the new young leaders will begin to emerge and take over. And that's a great thing.
It is an exciting time. I think you know, our young professionals in our community can help us, you know, tell the world about, you know, this is a great place to live and work and learn.
And they believe it. They truly believe it. You know, one of the things we saw in the winning counties was how proud they were of themselves and the story they had to tell. And our young people are telling that story. They're more engaged in a lot of things than many of us are. Social media,
I was going to say
example.
the technology
but,
is, yes.
You know, we're really excited because we had that broad spectrum of people being involved and moving forward.
Yes. If people would like to get involved, whether it's with an individual initiative or just to learn more about MCO Future, what would you like them to do?
Well, you mentioned first of all, learn from the website, and then you can contact us at mcofuture@gmail.com.
All right.
And, or call any of the commissioner's offices, because that's, you know, we're there to listen and really be engaged on this. We really want people to be involved. And as you said, the business community is so key to this.
Yes.
We need them as partners.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
No, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you both so
Thank
much.
you.
Jack Dustin from Wright State University, Montgomery County Commissioner Debbie Lieberman. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Cathy.
you.
This concludes Business Connection. I'm your host, Cathy Petersen. Please stay tuned for a message from Phil Parker, President of the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce.
Today's program was focused on the year-long work leaders in Montgomery County have done to shape a specific and meaningful plan with actions that will drive greater community success into our future. The MCO Future Community Dialogue this past year gave our citizens the opportunity to weigh in on issues affecting us, and more importantly, offer suggestions as to what strategies or actions we should take that could be game changers in this competitive environment. Focusing on these four important focal points of education, small business entrepreneurial support, government collaboration and efficiency, and measuring our results will no doubt make significant difference. Sure, there are probably 10 other important things that could have made their work list, but wise leaders know that in order to create change, most times you need to concentrate on changing just a few specific strategic tasks and make them work. Trying to do too much many times can water down and dilute your efforts and resources. This plan is focused yet creative. Often a critic of government and its bureaucratic nature, I must admit that this open community dialogue was refreshing, positive, and led to some unique solutions. I commend the leaders for taking some risks and creating a plan that is not only doable, but has created a real sense of energy and is infused with a good shot of Midwestern can-do attitude.